I ended up in CrossFit getting a pretty serious ankle injury. And after that, I was put in a boot and I could not walk for about 6 to 9 months. And I realized what I was doing wasn't working. Like, I was overworking myself. I was not eating healthy. I had a pretty serious addiction to a prescription drug, Adderall, that was keeping me up at night and not allowing me to get the proper sleep.
Today, I'm speaking with Alex, who's a 36-year-old assistant principal living in Arizona. Now, Alex's journey has been an interesting one. When he graduated high school, he was 145 pounds at 6'2". Then throughout college, he went on a bit of a dream bulk. He reached about 200 pounds. And in his own words, he was bloated and not in great shape. After that, he joined a CrossFit gym. He saw improvements, but he never really managed to see his abs. And he said that it was only when he started working with Matt, after finding the website, that things started to click. He got things in place and he saw his abs for the first time at around 171 pounds. Now he's 175 pounds and has been feeling stuck since. He said that when he worked with Matt, he had a specific structure and goal, and he's kept his routine, but he hasn't been able to make a confident decision about whether he should cut or begin bulking. And this is, I will quote here, kept me spinning my wheels. I'm training hard and eating well, but without a dialed in target, I'm not seeing meaningful progress. We get this a lot. I'm sure that many of you listening can potentially relate to that. Now, he says that his biggest obstacle is second guessing himself. He's prepared to put in the work. He's consistent with his training, nutrition, sleep, and recovery, but he just struggles to make a decision. And this indecision is costing him progress. He's got a supportive wife. Every Sunday, he mentioned, they do meal prep for the week, which keeps him on track. And that's something that he can share with his wife. So that's great for the both of them. And lastly, he said, there's a mental hurdle from my past. Growing up skinny has left me with this lingering belief that I always need to be gaining to be making progress. Interesting. Maybe he does. When I asked him, as I do everybody, why this means so much to him, he said that it would be a full circle moment in my recovery and a symbol of the life that I've worked hard to rebuild. I love it. I'm super excited to dive in. Let's bring Alex on the pod. I appreciate you coming on. Could you tell me, at what point did you discover Rip Body, and why did the content resonate with you?
Absolutely. So I found the Rip Body website about 3.5 years ago. I was really stagnant in my fitness journey and feeling like I really needed something to ignite the just understanding of my body and where I wanted to go. And I stumbled across your website and I just saw all the testimonials. And then I specifically saw your background and how you really spoke to the industry not really being truthful with people and really leading them down a path of buy this, buy that, do this, do this. And it was really refreshing and enlightening to hear someone that really was just trying to get it right and trying to understand how to help their listeners, their viewers, I feel like you didn't even have a following at the beginning. You were just like, hey, this is not right. This is not what's supposed to be happening. People are getting all the wrong information. Let me inform people and tell them how I was on a journey. And then finally I got stuck and what I did to really, put the pieces together to accumulate where I'm at now. And I thought that was so amazing that you were doing it for free, really, with all your resources and your videos and your the workout plans. And I just felt that you were someone that was honestly trying to transform the fitness industry for the better instead of just trying to make a dollar. And I really resonated with that. I kept looking at the testimonials and I just felt, if I'm going to do something, it's going to be right now and it's going to be with your company, whether it's you or Matt. And I felt that this was the time and opportunity to take that chance. And I don't regret it at all. It was unbelievably helpful. And I'm, obviously I could go on about it and I'm sure you'll ask me about that, but that's really where I came to find you in terms of, it wasn't this kind of bro lifting schedule. It wasn't this, you need to take this many supplements, you need to do this, you need to do that. It was, hey, here's how I became more educated when it came to the fitness world. And I want to impart that onto you. And as an educator, that's what I do. That's where I thrive. And so if I'm trying to help someone, I want to give them as much knowledge as I can to help them be successful. And I felt that your pursuit in that was extremely genuine to the point where I haven't seen that in other fitness gurus or, fitness experts that were really just doing this because they wanted to see people succeed.
Thank you, Alex. That means more than you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, in order for this to resonate with you, you must have gone through something before. The way I think about it, nobody comes to a site like ours, and I say ours because you're part of it. The listeners, the readers, you're all part of it. You helped me build it. You came to me with your questions, and I answered as best I could, and I keep doing that. And however, I know that in order for this level of detailed content to be palatable, you do need to think. At some point, a prescription isn't going to work. You need to really think about your situation so that you can apply the right thing at the right time, the right intervention at the right time. Where had you come from so that actually this content appealed to you?
So full story or shortened story, where am I at? Like, do I go back to high school, kind of growing up, or do I do like kind of a couple years prior to you?
I'll tell you what, rip through it, and then we can go back and dig into some specific points.
Absolutely. Okay.
From high school, sure.
Yep. So starting in 8th grade through high school, I was an athlete, always played sports, but I was skinny as a rail. I mean, you could have flown me over with just one puff. I was 120 pounds soaking wet my freshman year, couldn't lift the bar off the bench, and always was super self-conscious of my, appearance. I always had a great ability to connect with people, sense of humor. My confidence socially was great, but like my appearance was not okay. And so fast forward to college, I graduate, I'm probably 140 pounds soaking wet. And I'm thinking, hey, I do not like the way I look, so I'm going to bulk. Right. So I do some research very quickly and I'm trying to figure out where I go to get a bigger physique. And a lot of it is just drink protein shakes, load up calories, lift 4 or 5 days a week. And so that's what I did through most of college. Obviously, I was eating like crap on the weekends. I'm drinking on the weekends. And I graduated college at around 185, 195 pounds, but I was just bloated. Like I was not what I intended to be, but I guess I was okay with the fact that I wasn't as skinny as I used to be. I moved to Honduras and taught overseas for about 6 months. And there I just continued to engage in this kind of eating behavior. And then there was a lot of factors that played into me just blowing up. My skin broke out. I came back to the States 6 months later and I had a belly. And I look at myself and I'm just like, why didn't anybody tell me that? Why did not my wife at the time not tell me that? Right. Like I was just big and bloated. So I came back and I was really introduced to CrossFit, and CrossFit was great. I did, thin out. I saw a lot of great things happen, the competitiveness, the team nature of just wanting to lift in a unit. And I'm pushing myself harder than that guy. But I think my eating habits were still so skewed and I was still gorging myself. I still remember, filling the protein shaker with 1,000 calories and just chugging it. My wife being like, that is disgusting. I'm like, no, like I'm trying to get this physique. And I was just so wrong with my nutrition, but I was lifting pretty regularly at CrossFit. I ended up in CrossFit getting a pretty serious ankle injury. And after that, I was put in a boot and I could not walk for about 6 to 9 months. I had a strained or elongated tibial tendon, and it just basically in the inside of my ankle, it was just like a stretched tendon. And I realized what I was doing wasn't working. Like I was overworking myself. I was not eating healthy. I had a pretty serious addiction to a prescription drug, Adderall, that was keeping me up at night and not allowing me to get the proper sleep, which I know is one of your main proponents of following the plans that you recommend. And I just didn't take that for what it was. I thought I could get by on a couple hours. I can get by with doing what I need to do. And then if I work out really hard, I'll be great. But I wasn't doing all the other things. And that ultimately came to a boiling point where I was in a boot 6 months, 9 months. I could barely walk to the end of the street. And then when I started lifting, I said, okay, I'm going to try to start doing this right. So then I started, just lifting a couple days a week. And I came across your website and saw all the things that you had to offer, your take on the fitness industry. I started following your workout plans, and then I realized I'm not doing this the right way. Like, I'm burning myself out. I'm overtraining. I'm not eating well. I'm just completely just running on fumes. And that's when I connected with Matt from Rip Body, and it just completely opened my eyes to what my potential could be and where I was and how long I was in that rut for X amount of months, X amount of years, until finally I said, okay, I know what to do now for my health, for my wellness, for my spiritual mind, my physical body, to actually see the results that I want to see.
Thank you for sharing that. That must have been exceptionally tough to be going from training. Did you mention a number of times a week, or was it written
I was
in the
training at
application?
CrossFit when I moved back to the States about 4 to 5 times a week.
So you've gone from that to now being able to do nothing.
Right.
And you're in a boot. So your
I was in a
activity
boot.
levels have just gone to zero.
They plummeted.
Did your nutrition habits change?
Absolutely. I started getting into a all or nothing mentality. And if I can't lift, then I'm just going to eat and drink whatever I want. And it really led me down a pretty dark road of, hey, if I can't walk down the street, then I'm just going to mask this with alcohol. I'm going to mask this with binge eating. I have a really big sweet tooth. And so, you know what? Candy, sweets, whatever it might be, I don't really care. I'm not feeling it today. I haven't worked out. So what's the point? And it was a all or nothing mentality that I'm still working through today.
Yeah, I can see how that would be incredibly difficult. How was the Adderall at that point in time? Is this where you started taking a little too much, or had that been a problem before? I know you've said you've managed to kick it and you're now 2 years of not taking it. Is that right?
Correct. So I take it as prescribed. I've been taking it as prescribed for 2 years because I do
Okay.
have ADHD. It does help me in my work environment. There's some systems that I've set up that have allowed me to take it as prescribed, but it's a very addictive and dangerous drug. And so the job I was currently working at was very high demand, very high performing. And so it caused me to start taking a little bit more each day. And what went from prescribed, then doubled, then tripled, and it got out of hand to where I was not sleeping at night. I was constantly relying on that as my fuel. I couldn't remember outside of these 2 years during that time, probably 3 to 4 or 5 years, where it was, I couldn't remember working out not on Adderall. Like, I would take a Adderall pill, working out, doing CrossFit. And I just remember my heart I'm loving it, but I'm also sucking air at the same time because it increases your heart rate, increases your blood pressure. And so it's a very dangerous combination. But I
Right.
thought, hey, if it gives me this euphoric feeling and I'm working out, it'll be okay. And I really didn't understand the damage I was doing to my body, because as great of a workout as I would have had, it was all diminished when I stayed up all night.
Yeah, I can see that. So what was the aha moment for you? The spark that made you not only identify that you had a problem, but actually do something about that?
Yeah, it was my wife. My wife definitely called me out and recognized, hey, you're acting different. You're, more tired on the weekends, because I was running out of the prescribed prescription during the week, and on the weekends I was a blob, and I would binge eat. And it was like, okay, so I had these healthy habits during the week, and I say healthy because obviously I was still staying up all night, but then on the weekends I was just like drink, eat, do whatever I want. And it was her really creating those boundaries and saying, hey, if this is going to work, you need to be honest with me. I can't have someone doing something that is not completely transparent. And so that was the changing point, the turning point, the hinge point, if you will, for me realizing I'm not healthy. I felt the levels of energy on a regular basis just were not there if I wasn't on a large amount of Adderall. I felt these mood swings that I felt were causing me to act a different way towards people than I normally would. Doing all of these things that I thought were high performing and realized this is not healthy. Like, this is going to lead me to an early grave. This is going to lead me to having a heart attack at one of these workouts. And everyone's going to wonder, wow, how could someone die so young? Well, it's because they were on 200 milligrams of Adderall, because they were taking way more than prescribed. And it got really ugly really fast. And I didn't know how to deal with it.
How did you deal with that? I'm asking because, and just to be clear, if you had come to us at that point, we wouldn't have been able to take you on as a client, and we would have suggested to,
Sure.
fix that first. The same with alcohol addiction, any kind of addiction, really. That
Absolutely.
isn't obviously what we do. What did you do? How did you get a handle on it? Are there support groups for this? What's the process?
So first is my faith. I count a lot to this, to faith and surrendering to God. What was I holding on to that was preventing me from being the person that I was? Because I was just there was a hole where I felt I was trying to fill this void with the Adderall, feeling like I can't be that person unless I have it. And I feel like it was a reassurance in myself, in my faith, in my belief that I am okay. I'm good enough just the way that I am. My personality, my sense of humor, my charisma. Yes, do I get distracted? Am I a little rambunctious at times? Of course, but that doesn't mean that I'm less than. And so really changing that mindset of I'm not enough without it. The second thing was recovery groups. I went to a recovery group very consistently throughout the week and Celebrate Recovery. And that helped me tremendously, understanding that, again, faith-based, that I am not able to do this on my own. And if I were, I would have done it already. The third was my wife. I think her being there and being able to say, hey, let's set up some boundaries, some parameters that are going to help support you, and her just not being like, hey, I'm done with this. You lied to me. You didn't tell me this. You didn't tell me that. I'm more blessed than I can imagine to have a woman that stayed with me through this, because it was pretty dark and it was a pretty difficult time for me, and for her to say, hey, I'm going to hold your hand through this. I'm going to allow you to struggle and I'll be the strong one, because I know that one day I'll struggle and you're going to support me. And just that confidence in me that I will come through this. I think just talking about it, I think there's so much freedom in talking about a struggle and talking about an addiction that people just want to shy away from. And I've realized that God is using me to use my story to bring him glory and to figure out how to help other men or women that struggle with this, because it is a reality and it catches up really quickly. And it's one of those silent addictions that people don't really talk about. It's not obvious. It's not, oh, this person's addicted to Adderall. Like, no one really knows unless you know. And
Sure.
so on it, I felt like Superman. Off it, I felt like I couldn't pick up a pencil and write my name. But through all of this understanding and reflection and prayer, I figured out how to be okay with myself and be happy with myself.
So what I'm hearing there is three key things have jumped out to me. There's a mindset shift, a fundamental mindset shift, that I am enough and I can do this.
Absolutely.
Two is putting yourself in the right environment. So you're around other people who've been through it and understand. And three, you've got accountability there, both in your group and at home with your wife, with specific metrics of what you're going to follow through on, what the boundaries are, clear boundaries there. This sounds very much like nutrition and training coaching, frankly,
Absolutely.
which, I mean, should not be surprising to me at all, but very interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So it had been a year and a half then from that point where you decided to stop until you reached out for coaching. Is that correct, or was it a shorter
Correct.
time frame?
Yeah. So it was about maybe a year, um, maybe about 6 months to 9 months in that recovery phase that I
Okay.
felt like I need something to reinvigorate me, because those that have ADHD and me chasing this euphoric feeling, I wanted something fresh, new, different, something to drive that energy. And that's where I stumbled across Rip Body. And I was just amazed with the amount of information and the rawness of the content, the ability to reframe what fitness really is and what I thought it was. And the fact that you wouldn't take on clients that were, taking anabolic steroids or had a serious drinking issue, or like, you need to get yourself right before you want to make those changes. And I thought that was so awesome that you were able to just be straight up and say, hey, if you're not willing to put in the work and you're not willing to take these steps to get yourself right, then how are we going to help you? And I think that is so profound for people that are looking for information in the fitness world, because I think a lot of people are like, yep, okay, it doesn't matter what your issues are. Sure, I'll get you to where you want to be. But if the person isn't whole, if they're not right with themselves, it's not going to be a successful journey with someone like you that is asking them to take another step of accountability, to take more steps of action when it comes to their fitness journey. So I thought that really struck a chord with me.
So you came to us for coaching. You worked with Matt for 3 months. How was that for you? What were the physical changes? What were the mental changes? And then from there, we're going to move into what has happened since and where you're at right now and how we can help you get unstuck. All right.
Absolutely. Working with Matt was fantastic. It was just, I felt honestly just this rush of excitement of, okay, this is a new journey. This is a new step for me. He, initially sent me all of this information. We talked on a regular basis, and the changes that I saw right away were I was able to see a six pack. And my wife would always joke, suck your stomach in. And when I worked with Matt, I did not hear that at all. And it was a constant affirmation of, okay, this is working. Like, I looked at myself and felt proud of myself in the mirror. Like, wow, the work I'm doing is actually benefiting me, and I'm taking his advice, understanding how to track my nutrients, not to a point where I'm, missing out on meals or not able to partake in events. I'm able to do this in a very healthy way so I can reach my goals, but I'm not hindering my social and emotional needs with people and parties and gatherings of sorts. I think mentally, it was the first time in my life I was actually able to be proud of myself looking in the mirror. And that's deep for me because I am almost 35 years old. So you got to think, a couple of years ago, I was 32, 33. And that was the first time I was able to take my shirt off, feel proud of myself looking in the mirror.
Now, you worked with Matt just for 3 months. Why did you end the coaching at that point?
Due to cost, and that was solely the only reason. There was two or three other times that I almost joined, but coaching spots filled up quickly, or just financially it was difficult. But otherwise, it was the best investment that I've made in my body in my entire life.
I'm sorry, I'm smiling. I don't mean to dismiss what you said. It's wonderful to hear. It's going to sound like I've paid you to be on.
Oh no,
I've
yeah,
paid you.
I like no, absolutely not. I'm telling you, man. Like, when I joined, I was like, you could define me as like kind of skinny fat. Like, yeah, like you look okay, but there's something missing. There's something that you're not doing. I think a lot of it was obviously the programming, but the nutrition for me was just, it was mind blowing to see how much I was overeating. I could have done, you know, 80 to 85% of what I needed to do lifting and nutrition wise Monday through Thursday, Sunday through Thursday. But Friday and Saturday, I was consuming way too many calories, mainly due to alcohol. And there was a diminish of my gains right there. And so just understanding how those things impact me, working on walking more, being more active, so that if I do have an extra couple of drinks on Saturday, hey, that's going to be balanced out rather with the walking, understanding the food choices that I have, the protein. I was not getting nearly enough protein when I first started. And I realized, okay, I need to set a goal. We worked on a goal, we worked on caloric intake, and it just took all the thinking out of it. So then I could just say, okay, I'm just going to type in the amount of calories, I'm going to take a picture of the barcode, and now I have a much better understanding of what I'm consuming on a daily basis rather than trying and guess.
Okay, so you got your abs, happy, transformational, physically and mentally. Where are you in the 2 years since? Reading through, it sounds like you're hovering at roughly around the same weight level. How are you
Mm-hmm.
doing in terms of your leanness? And what is it that you're struggling with right now?
Great question. So, in the last 2 years, I've been at this point of struggling with should I try and bulk or should I cut and then bulk? So, I'm around 175 pounds. And when I'm lifting consistently, I'm somewhat defined, but I'm not sure if I need to continue to cut to the point where it's uncomfortable for me and then bulk, or am I at a point where, yeah, okay, you look fairly good, maybe 14, 15% body fat. We'll go ahead and bulk a little bit more, doing a slow bulk, obviously reading all your articles with not jamming an extra 700 to 1,000 calories, but doing it in a slow, moderated way to feel like I have more just volume and just I'm a bigger person. Because that still gets to me sometimes is that, am I too thin? Am I not big enough?
This is something that so many people feel. And it happens on both sides of things. Oh, I'm not big enough. It's like, oh, I'm too big or carrying too much fat. It can happen on both sides. The first thing, are you happy with your body right now? Because you don't have to change anything if you don't want to, if you're comfortable. Ultimately, the goal is that we all get to a place where we're happy. Nobody has to lose fat, gain muscle. It's
Mhm.
just we choose to do that. So is this actually something that you really want to do, or is it just boredom? You're getting bored.
No, that's a great question because I want to say I am happy with my body, but there are a number of days that I'm not, where I wake up and I'm like, okay, I can't really see my abs. Okay, your chest isn't defined. Like I've always had a very small chest. Some other body parts on me, like I feel like stand out a little bit more. Chest has just always been so weak and smaller. But I think for me, I'm ready for that next step because I've now seen what I'm able to do. I know the potential that I have. And I know if I can get some redirection, some understanding of, okay, yeah, you might need to go to an uncomfortable place for this amount of months, for this amount of time, I can get there ultimately. It might be some discomfort to get comfortable, but I'm at the point where now that my recovery is going well, now that I've really cut out alcohol, now that I'm really consistent going to the gym, I am ready for that next step to challenge me so that I can reach those goals.
Okay, great. I'm glad that you said that, because the next step really is embracing the suck. And no one wants to hear it, or maybe they think they want to hear it, but then they don't want to do it. But if
Right.
you want to change, that's what you're going to have to do. There's a few interesting things you've said. You said, I'm mostly happy, but some days I look at myself and, my abs aren't as defined as they were. Well, part of that is about levels of leanness, but part of that is just that our appearance fluctuates throughout the week and
Mm-hmm.
throughout the day, actually. Right? So that's one thing that we just kind of need to accept. Then there's a conflicting goal to leanness, and that is, you've said, well, my chest isn't as big/defined. Okay, so definition of the chest or any body part is about muscle size, but also leanness as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're going to put on any significant amount of muscle mass on your chest, you need to go through a muscle growth phase, right? You need to go through a bulking phase. You are not new to the gym. I know you've got access to a fully equipped gym, free weights, machines. You've been lifting how many years now?
I'd say about regularly about 8.
Yeah. Okay. So it's, CrossFit, you pushed yourself hard initially. Like it's a long time, right? So the newbie gains are not there. So now really you do need to either cut or bulk.
Right.
And the third interesting thing that you mentioned just in passing, but maybe something that's going to niggle in your head when you bulk, you mentioned about your wife pointing out your stomach. I forget the exact words that she said. I'm sure they're coming right to your mind right now. What was it?
Yeah, suck your stomach in.
Suck your stomach in. Okay.
Yeah.
Small, probably joking, loving comment,
Sure.
but I'm willing to bet that rings in your head a few too many times, too often.
Sure does. How many times
Okay.
I've heard her say that? Yes.
And so the thing here is, we don't have a magic wand, and you're also not someone that wants to just go and pump yourself full of steroids, right?
Correct.
You want to do this naturally, yeah, which is what we do here at Rip Body. And so you are going to have to go through a bulking phase. That bulking phase is going to entail gaining muscle, but also fat as well, which means that you're going to unfortunately lose your ab definition. The question I would ask yourself is, at this point, would I feel comfortable gaining 20 to 25 pounds of body weight with around 10 to 12 pounds of that being fat? You're going to do that over 10-ish months, gaining a rate of around 2 pounds per month. Possibly you'll bump up immediately like 3-4 pounds just from water, gut content, and glycogen from eating a little more and holding a little more in your gut and storing more of those carbs in your muscles and your liver. So do you feel that you could do that right now, or do you feel that you have to get leaner first?
That's a great question. Wow. I would say I could do that if that's what because again, I feel like I'm stalling out for a reason. And I think I'm stalling out because I think going down in weight is just kind of like my body is like, okay, what do we do with 171, 172? Where are we at right now? I think there needs to be a change in my system, in my hormones, in my levels to be like, hey, okay, we're doing something different. And you might like the results, you might not, but ultimately being able to get to a certain point to then cut, I think, and that's what I was afraid of. Should I? Because I feel like right now, my body in the state that I've been in, doing intermittent fasting, doing a lower version of carbs for a while now has caused my body to be in this state of stagnation. And I think for me, something drastically different, and not drastically, but, bulking would be very advantageous to where I'm at now and my body being like, okay, let's do this. We're okay with this, and then cutting back. So to answer your question, yes, I think that would be good for me to change the pace that I've been on for a number of years now.
Okay, let me tell you what's going to happen, and then you tell me whether you're still okay with it.
Okay.
You start eating a little more. If you're at maintenance right now, then you're going to bump up your calories by roughly 300 calories a day. Okay, you might need to nudge things upwards from there slightly as your metabolic rate changes. Your NEAT, these are these non-formal exercise changes in energy expenditure that happen. We tend to fidget more. We tend to want to take the stairs a little bit more. And working in a school, I'm sure there's plenty of those rather than the elevator. And just we tend to be far more active when we're in an energy surplus. The opposite happens when we go into a deficit. Right, so you may need to nudge up your calories over time, but I'd start off with a roughly 300 calorie surplus each day. Right, so you do that. You track your weight. The weight's fluctuating up and down. It's harder to track your rate of weight gain when you are gaining weight slowly or than it is when you're losing weight. Why is that? Because people typically lose around 4 pounds a month, a pound a week, but you're looking to gain at 2 pounds a month or half a pound a week. And so it takes longer to see the signal from the noise in the fluctuations, and that drives people mad. And it's going to drive you mad, potentially, okay? Because shiny object syndrome is going to potentially come in, and you may want to make some changes. Another thing's going to happen, right? You've got these words of your wife that are in your mind, and you're going to look down, and you are, unfortunately, going to see, and you're going to measure it as well, as your stomach does start to gradually get a little bit bigger. And unfortunately, you're going to see the growth on your stomach more than you are on the other parts of your body. Why is that? Well, fat storage is more skewed around the midsection, whereas muscle is going all around your body. And let's say you were to gain muscle and fat in a 1-to-1 ratio, right? A pound of muscle is going to be spread out all over your body. You're not going to notice it. A pound of fat, okay, maybe that's too little. 5 pounds of muscle and 5 pounds of fat gain, you're going to notice the fat more than you are the muscle. But that's going to be the position that you will be in 5 months' time. You're not actually going to have that much of a noticeable difference, perhaps in your biceps or perhaps in your legs. Yeah, okay. You know that it's going to be bigger, but your stomach is going to be bugging you. Your strength will be up in the gym. Your workouts will be going great, but this nagging feeling in the back of your mind is going to be, am I doing things right? And it's going to be rough. And then you're going to be, well, shit, do I cut? Do I carry on? Maybe you get a comment from your wife one day. Bam. Kicks you into a spiral. You decide to cut again. You cut the fat that you've just gained off over maybe, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. You're now equally lean again, but you can't quite notice the difference that level of muscle has made to you because it wasn't enough. And now you're thinking, well, shit, the bulk didn't work for me. What was the point in this? This isn't for me. These aren't the types of results that happen to someone like me. Now, the key I'd say here is know that this is what's going to happen for you so that when these things happen, my words here echo in your mind and you're like, no, and he said this was going to happen, push through. This is the type of thing, as I'm sure you can tell, that we do a lot with the coaching, but obviously we're not going to be here for you. But this is exactly the thing that you need to have in mind when these doubts start to creep in.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot because you've pretty much laid out exactly how I'm going to think, what I'm going to think, my doubt in this process 3-4 months from now, trying to figure out, is this too much? Should I cut? So would you say if I'm at around 175, 176 right now, what would you say is the weight that I would get to before then I would start cutting?
Probably around 200.
200.
Yeah. You've said that you've been you particularly mentioned about restricting carbs. And so as you bump up your calorie intake, you're not going to need to push up your protein. That's going to be fine. You already mentioned that you're getting enough, right? 160 to 80 grams, perfect, right? More is not going to help you gain more muscle. So, although you could, if you wish to, consume more. Fat, you're not really going to want to push your fat too much higher, given what you've said, because, then you're going to be having, I don't know, there's just kind of a limit to how much you can really be eating there before it starts getting unhealthy. And you end up having quite a lot of saturated fat, and that's not good for cardiovascular disease risk and coronary heart disease risk. Right. Okay. So even though I'd love to sit here and say, eat bacon and sausages and fatty beef steaks every day, trust me, I'd love that. I'd love nothing more than to go have barbecue. Right, I go and plant myself in Elsie's barbecue in Kansas City and eat myself into.
Not the move, huh?
It's not the move, unfortunately. Great place, by the way. Shout out to Elsie's. So you're going to have to bump up your carbs. You bump up your carbs, you're going to store more water because, you're going to have more gut content. And also those carbs are going to be stored in your muscles and your liver as glycogen. This is a fuel source, which is also going to help make your workouts probably better almost immediately. So straight away, you're going to gain maybe 3-4 pounds in that first week. Don't let that knock your confidence. Okay. Then over the course of time, you'll gain a little bit more there probably. So then that's why if we're thinking about 20 pounds of tissue gain, muscle and fat over a 10-month period, well then we need to subtract out these water, gut content, glycogen changes, which is where I get the 200 figure from, right? So it's 20 pounds plus those five. So plus the 175 is the 200.
Right.
Yeah, that's roughly what I would have in mind if I were you. And then again, ask yourself, can I do that? That may require you to have a conversation with your wife, conversation with your kids. I think I hear them in the background, right? I'm not sure how young they are, but, just this is what daddy's doing. He's really trying to do this. It's going to be tough for him, but, sometimes we've got to do difficult things. I don't know how old they are. They sound quite young, but just so that you have a supportive environment there for you.
Yeah, I think you've pointed out all my doubts already and pointed out all of my my thoughts down the line, because I will get to a point where I feel a little heavier, feel a little chunkier. Okay, I'm not feeling as defined as I am right now, but thinking about the long goal excites me. Thinking about the fact that right now I've been stagnant, so I need to switch something up. I need to do something different, and that equates to being uncomfortable for a period of time before then I can see the results that I really want to see. So would you say for this period, lifting the 4 days a week is still appropriate?
The number of days that we train really comes down to the appropriate level of training volume that we need to force adaptations. So just the number of days is how we split the total training volume. So you could do the same training volume in 5 days or 6 days. It wouldn't matter if that's your preference to go to the gym. It's just we need to be careful not to then, when we train an extra day, that means we're adding 20%, a massive jump to our training volume, right?
Right.
So what I'd say to you is this. Keep your training plan the same right now. And when you start increasing your calories, you start progressing again, which I would guess you haven't been recently, right?
Right.
And so if that does happen, which I'm pretty confident it will, keep your training volume there. And then nudge the training volume, adjust things to keep progressing with your lifts, and only when needed to. And we've got a flowchart for that on the website, just ripbody.com/training. And then on that training page, I think, I've put it under advanced training articles. I'm not really sure it belongs in advanced. It's just an article about troubleshooting training plateaus. And that goes through a checklist that Eric and I put together from the Muscle and Strength Pyramids books about how to break plateaus with your lifts. And we talk about volume there and what to look for.
Okay. Fantastic. And then when you're talking about the caloric intake, right now I'm at about 2,100. So that would be about 2,300 to 2,400 calories a week at the beginning. And then depending on where that weight gain is from there, then increasing.
Did you hear what you did then?
I did not.
I'm going to point this out. All right. So the idea of increasing your calorie, you said you're at about 2,100, did you say? No.
Correct.
2,100 calories right now. And you said, so to increase it by 200 to 300 calories, you said. When you know that I said 300 calories. But there's a part of you that's a bit scared to make that jump.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But that's what you're going to need to do.
Yeah.
It's okay to be a little scared, man. But just, again, what I'll say, you're going to do this 300 calorie jump. Your weight's going to bump up over this next week. And then the rate of change is going to slow down. The underlying rate of change is going to slow down. You don't need to be scared of that. You're walking a path that many, many, many people have walked on before. And you know that logically everything you're doing are the right things to be doing. You mentioned faith earlier in this conversation, and bulking in a way does kind of require an act of faith, because we're not going to be able to measure how much of the weight gain is fat versus muscle. Because as we know, body fat percentage estimation devices, they just don't work accurately enough on an individual level, right? So it does require a little faith. But I'd say to you this, we know that we need to gain weight at a consistent and sensible rate, and here we're saying 2 pounds a month. We know that we need to train appropriately hard, and that is really hard, but not to the point of injury. Okay? You know that you need to eat enough protein, and you are already doing that. And if you do all of these things consistently for long enough, then have faith that that is going to lead to the outcome that you're after, because you are doing all of the right things. The rest of it is just down to the genetic gods, right? Frankly. Yeah.
Right.
Which unfortunately we don't control, but we are doing everything within our control to make the most of our genetics. So just
Okay.
take comfort in that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I completely trust that because I know that I've seen several of the articles on your website about people getting to a point that was uncomfortable, but continuing to trust in the process, continuing to trust in the knowledge of people that have been there and done that. And so I'm all for it. And I can't wait to see the results on the other side, because I know that when people like yourself are guiding you to a certain endpoint, they know what they're doing, and they've done that with so many other people along the way, that this isn't some get fit quick scheme, or this is, you're telling me right now this is going to be uncomfortable, this is going to be doubting and anxiety and should I really do this? And the reality is I need something different because I'm ready for that next change. And I really appreciate you bringing that to the forefront of my mind, that this is going to be an uncomfortable process. This is going to be some days where I'm like, hey, I'm not feeling this, but I'm going to keep trusting the process and know that the end result is going to be exactly what I wanted. So I appreciate you saying that, because I think so many times it can just, this nice box of what the end result will look like is handed to you. And it's like, oh, like that's great. But you don't think about all the work and uncomfortableness that you go through leading up to that point. So, yeah.
It's a mental game, and you're a very mentally strong man, Alex, as you've already proven. So I don't doubt that you'll do well.
I appreciate
Please,
that.
will you let us know how you get on?
Absolutely. I absolutely will.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
I
Thank you
appreciate
so
your time
much.
today. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Alex. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, press that like button as well. Now, there are several ways that we can help you. Number one, the way that most people get helped, just go to the website. I've written an article for pretty much everything. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. I answer daily, and I have been doing so for 14 years. That's something like 20,000 comments answered. If there's something that isn't there that you'd like to ask me about, just shoot me an email, andy@ripbody.com. I'll probably make an article about it, or if I've written an article about it, I'll send it to you. If you're interested in coaching, then please check out the coaching page. We are not for everyone, but those that we are for absolutely love it. This is the bread and butter of what we do. My team and I would be honored to look after you. So all of the details are over on the coaching page. And rest assured, I am very careful to make sure that we're a good fit before any commitments are made. And that obviously goes both ways. You want to see that we're right for you as well. We have some books, but please don't feel pressured to buy them. The Muscle and Strength Pyramids, which you see over my left shoulder here, and also the Diet Adjustments Manual, and also Macro Factor. My Japanese team, we're responsible for bringing Macro Factor to Japan. As of recording this, we've just crossed 7,000 users, which I'm super pumped about. This kind of pales in comparison to what they've got in the States. However, it is a wonderful nutrition logging app. It will help you reach your goals. If you'd like to check it out, use code RIPPED, and that will give you an extension on your week's trial to 2 weeks. I will get a small kickback for that. However, I kind of am an investor in this company because of that. So I hope you don't see that as a conflict of interest. The people behind it, Greg and Lindsay Knuckles, they have been dear friends for 10 years now. I love them, and the app is just great. All right, that's all. I have nothing else to pitch you. I'll catch you next time. Thank you.